Kia ora and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be swatching some Winsor and Newton watercolour paint. This is their professional line. I have a select section here. So these paints were gifted to me, most of them. A select few I bought myself, but most were gifted. Or I had at the start of my painting journey from some deceased relatives that were lying in a box and I didn't know what they were, so I left them. But today is the day we come back to Winsor and Newton, old and new, and we swatch them out together. I'm really excited about this. It's a bit more special compared to some of the other brands because I bought those with my own money. These ones was special to someone once upon a time, and now I get the privilege of using them, enjoying them, and bringing some paintings to life using them. I've put them here in this palette. I've got it's my favorite palette, so it felt right to put them in here. They all fit wonderfully. So without further ado, I'll put these aside. I'll show you some of the different tube paints because there's quite a range here, and then we'll start swatching them together. So the oldest here is a couple of them, but they look like this. I just put pretty on the back, but I don't know how old this kind of design is. This is Scarlet Lake, but I don't actually see any pigment information on it, so that's quite interesting. And it also doesn't have the dragon on it. It's got WN here, but it doesn't have their new logo on it. This is the same with the WN here, if it wants to focus. This is Winsor Red, and I've got an indigo like that, and this yellow as well, which is Winsor yellow, and this indigo. I had to pull out the receipts to make sure this was Winsor and Newton, but it's an indigo. I've also got another indigo here, but they feel slightly different, so I've put them in the set together. But there's an indigo tube here somewhere. This is the older kind of paint tube that's slightly newer than that previous one, but this has got the dragon in here. This one does have pigment information and different tube style, and it's quite interesting. The next one is this kind of tube. It's got a slight swatch down here. It's this kind of different tube once again. Logo up here, pigment information and everything. And then the newest tube has the colour around the top here. This is a very exciting colour, smalt blue. I've been looking for this colour everywhere, and I had to buy it at this one place in New Zealand. It was surprisingly difficult to get this one, but this is the new style at the moment they've stuck with. So quite a range of different tube styles, which is quite fun to look at and being able to compare the range. So without further ado, I'll tell you the paint names as I swatch, but let's get into that part. For this, I'll be using the Daler paintbrush here in a size 5. I quite enjoy this brush and I feel like it's a good size for these swatches. I'll go in with a second layer as well, but we'll do the first layer lighter. So this is Winsor Yellow. Looks like a very nice, cool yellow. This is the old tube. So with some of these older tube paints, they might vary from the newer version of them. I'm not sure. This one didn't have a pigment information about it, so I'm sorry I can't tell you too much about it. The next colour I'll swatch is the transparent yellow. This is PY15. I'm going to do it skipping it so they don't bleed into each other before they dry. Quite a nice yellow. Then we have cadmium yellow. This one's got PY35 and PO20. Can you see me? Oh, you can. I was wondering if you could see me picking up the paint. use a bit more water on this bottom layer, and then I'll do a heavier swatch over top. Next we have Scarlet Lake. This one once again doesn't have pigment information. I'm sure it wouldn't have changed too much from the original, but I didn't get around to Googling it. So if anyone has any information about the Scarlet Lake, Winsor Yellow, Winsor Red and the Old Indigo pigments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to know. The next colour is actually one of my favourites, and that is Quinacridone Rose. This is the last of the tube I have. This is PR209. I love this colour. It just feels very unique and very beautiful, and a lovely cool red to use. So that's quite a lovely one there. Next up is Quinacridone Magenta. I'll be swatching. This is PR122. Look at that. Beautiful. I've actually swatched a lot of quinacridomes in the past year, so I know a good quinacridome at this moment when I see it. So it's quite beautiful. Standard quinacridome kind of colour. Next is Cobalt Blue. This one was weird. Let me find the tube for that. As you can see here, the pigment for this one says PY184. This is a blue, not a yellow pigment. I did put the one it says on here, but I assume it will be your standard cobalt pigment, not a yellow pigment. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. That one was confusing to discover, to say the least. So let's watch our Cobalt Blue. I'll use a bit of water with this one because I know cobalts granulate. So yeah, I put a fair bit of water with the cobalt because I want to be able to see its granulating colours. Next up we have Indonesian Blue. I always pronounce that one wrong. But we've got that blue, and it's this beautiful colour. I've used this colour by White Nights before, and I really enjoyed it. It's this very beautiful, warm, leaning blue. It's very moody, this one. Which is quite fun. Continuing, that's PB60, I believe. Next up we have Cobalt Green, PG26. Again, I'll use a bit of water for this one because cobalts tend to granulate. They're a bit of a heavier pigment there. So not great if you're trying to be an environmentalist. Next up is Winsor Green Yellow shade, PG36. Very bright, this one. More of a mixing green than a standalone. We're going in with the Raw Sienna. I did swatch these out a little different. I had them in a different tin originally before I swapped them around again. So the swatching order might look a little different from the order on the palette. That's your Raw Sienna. Then we've got the Burnt Sienna, which I've put right next to it actually. There we go. Very standard Burnt Sienna here. Very nice. Very nice. Next up we've got Yellow Ochre. This is, I haven't been telling you the pigments, I'm so sorry. So the Raw Sienna is PY12 and PR101, so it's multi-pigmented, and the Burnt Sienna is PR101 as well. This Yellow Ochre Light is PY43, so it's not actually just yellow ochre, it's yellow ochre light, which is slightly different. So here we have it here. It's quite nice. I don't know what else to say there. And then the next colour here, before I let them go dry, is Perylene Violet, which is PV29. It's a very different kind of colour. This one I wasn't too sure where to put in the palette, but I just put it near the browns. So it's quite a beautiful colour there. I will let these dry. But before I do that, I'll talk about the paper. It is 100% cotton paper, so the paint should show its true beautiful colours without any hindrance in that regard. I wanted it to be a fair test with the paper not holding the paints back at all, but so far they've all been beautiful to re-wet and use. We'll see with the other half once these ones dry. So I have let these dry and we will move on to the next few colours. So we've got a Laureline, which is back up the yellows. So this is PY40. Very nice. Off camera I'll do a line over top of all the colours to see how they look with that second layer over top of them. The next one is Turner's Yellow, PY216. This one's quite opaque, so I'll just use a bit more water in it. It's quite nice yellow. Then we've got Cadmium Orange, which is mixed pigmented. It is PY35 and PR108. I can't even read my own handwriting, sorry guys. This will be quite an opaque colour as well because of the cadmium. There we go. Quite a range of yellows in this set, unintentionally, but quite nice. Then we'll do Winsor Red. Whew. Okay. That was a pop. I'm not sure on the pigment on this, I'm sorry. But damn, that was intense. It might be a pyrrole. Same with the Scarlet Lake. It might be pyrrole pigment. Moving on, we've got Rose Matter. Rose Matter Genuine. This is NR9, so don't think it's light fast, this one. But so she's a beautiful colour. Continuing forth, we've got the one I was very excited about, and that is the Smalt Dunes Blue or something like that, PV15, and this one granulates so beautifully. It's a very gorgeous colour. It's almost violet, but it's not quite. It's similar to ultramarine, but it's, I feel like, heavier in the granulation and more red leaning. I'll give you guys a close-up once these are all dry and painted as well, so don't worry. Then we've got Allura, can't even read my writing, and To Wear Blue, which is PB27. So the pigment might be more familiar than my pronunciation of the paint. It's quite a cool leaning blue. Probably should have swapped places with the Indantharin blue. Name pronunciations is not my favourite. Then we've got the Aqua Green, which when it looked at the pigment, it just said pigment phthalo. So I assume that will be maybe PB15 column 3 or PG7. I could be wrong, but that's just what I think of when I think of phthalo pigments. Either way, beautiful colour. Continuing forward, we've got the Hooker's Green. Couldn't even read my writing again. This is multi-pigmented. This is PG36 and PY110. Oh, I just all over my ochre colour, but that's alright. I did put these very close together. There we go, there's the beautiful green, very similar to sap. We've got the cobalt green next, which is PG 50. Very heavy, so it will be quite opaque. Adding a fair amount of water with this one because I want to see if it granulates, as cobalt usually does. We've got burnt umber. This is 3 pigments, so it's PBR7, PR101, and PY42. So it's quite a few pigments in a burnt umber. Feels very weird. I haven't seen that many colours. Next we have the Payne's Grey. This one is mixed pigment as well. This is PB15, PBK6, and PV19. So that's kind of standard mix when it comes to the Payne's Grey, I feel. Usually have like 3 pigments in it. There we have it. Next we've got Indian Red. Again, don't question why it's laid out like this. It confuses me too. But here we go. Again, I'll add a bit more water because this one's quite heavy and I want to see if it granulates. You can kind of see a bit of texture coming through already. I won't swatch these at the same time, but I'll swatch the newer indigo, which is PBK and PV19, so 2 pigments. Oh, and PB15. So I assume it's just different amounts, but similar to the Payne's Grey. So this is the newer mixture of the 2 indigos. And once again, I'll let these dry, and I'll come back to swatch that last one with you guys, and I'll show you what these swatches look like up close and personal. Okay, they haven't all dried, but I have done the the layer over top of some of the paints. The pigments that I thought would be more opaque have been, but we'll get into that later on. First, I shall swatch the old indigo. Oh, it feels a bit more blue leaning rather than towards grey. So I guess the pigment has changed. It's between the two, which was what I was wondering. Quite interesting. I'll let that dry and I'll let the rest of them dry and we can do that second swatch over and I'll give you guys a nice closer look at them all dry and beautiful. So I've changed up the format a little bit to give you guys a good closer look. So if we start here, you can kind of see how they are layering and what the heavier pigments were. Got some beautiful granulation throughout some of them, especially in the cobalts and the Indian Red a little bit too. You can see the shift between the 2 indigos here. They've definitely got a bit of a colour change between the 2 formulas. And yeah, some more opaque colours. Overall, Winsor & Newton is a very reliable brand. It's a professional paint. You kind of get what you get with professional paint. It's always going to be quality to some extent. Of course, there are some outliers there, but it's just whether the fact is if it's affordable for you or not in this current time. And on that note, this was very special because I was able to get gifted these. It would have cost so much to buy this myself. So it is cost decision making for a lot of people out there who aren't as lucky as I am. But they are good paint. They've been really fun to work with and I'm excited to use them more. So thank you guys for watching and see you guys in the next video.